And in spite of that conversion, the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria is saying that no fewer than 3,567 jobs were lost in the manufacturing sector in the first half of this year, according to the report Employment Generation in the Manufacturing Sector. It declined to 6,428 in the first half of 2023. This was about 32.8% reduction in employment generation. We have, well, at the heart of that report, the Director General of Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Segun Ajayi Kadri, joins us virtually now to tell us more about their findings for the first half of the year. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Kadri, especially because we do know that you're attending one of your meetings of MAN, right? Thank you for taking time out. But so we see that more than 3,500 jobs were lost in the manufacturing sector in the first 6 months of this year. Has it been better than that before now?
Well, thank you very much for having me. We've had quite a number of challenges, and the loss in terms of employment generated in the manufacturing sector is one of the manifestations of the binding constraints that have continued to limit the performance of the sector. In the past, we have witnessed even worse situations, no doubt. But what is particularly relevant here is the fact that we had thought that we were going to, post-COVID-19, witness uninterrupted growth pathways in the manufacturing sector. So this setback in terms of employment generated in the sector means that our recovery post-COVID-19 and managing our manufacturing process in the face of the logistics dislocation by Russia-Ukraine war and all the global uncertainties. It means that we are now taking the full weight of it. So we have had it in a way worse in the past, but our growth pathways in terms of recovery has been hampered. And what you are seeing in terms of loss of employment generated is an indication.
Well, that's unfortunate there. And I see that one of the factors you highlighted is the issue of unfriendly business environment. Well, this was in the first 6 months. So knowing that this administration started, just about how many months ago, perhaps. But would you have expected there to be a change by now? We see President Tinubu is very high on interest rates, he has that tax committee and all of that. Would you say things have started changing, after the 6 months, to now?
Okay, I would say that there are indications that things will change. And that depends on how government comes out clean and very clear about the direction that is going. Most of the hardships and distortions and uncertainties and apprehensions that we are having now is because there appears to be lack of clarity as to what the end game is all about. I mean, we have seen pockets of quite progressive and much needed reforms by the administration. And I agree with you that the government has just come in. But there's need for the average investor and the operator in the private space cannot rely on hope that is not defined. So we need to be assured of one, clarity in terms of what government is doing at the expected end with timelines so that it can guide your production projections, for instance, it can guide your expectations, it can guide how you are going to work on your business strategies, to be able to succeed. So we are seeing that Mr. President has done the right things. The floating of the Naira, I don't think anybody is quarreling with that. The removal of the fuel subsidy, I think, is generally accepted. In terms of making the right changes and the CBN, getting the ministers to settle down, yes, I believe that we can live with all that. But then what next? What is the end game? What is the overall objective of government? That is what will allow us to locate ourselves in the government plan. It is okay for us to have informed government about what needs to be done. And I think we've done that severally. So many other sectors have done that. But what does government want to do? Where is government taking us? I mean, what are the gains to come from, for instance, the removal of fuel subsidy, the floating of the naira rate? How are we going to guarantee adequacy of supply? And is the productive sector going to be prioritized so that we can reflate the economy and have a quick recovery? What are we going to do about inflation? I mean, the rising cost of diesel and so on and so forth. What is the end game? In terms of all those costs, that's not really the border. I mean, in terms of debt and what is government going to do so that the private sector can queue effectively behind government? And what government wants to do becomes what Nigeria wants to do. And everybody buys into it. Then you can invest your money. Then you can or hold back your money. Or you can expand production or constrain production. You can plan for increased output.
All right.
Because the manufacturing sector continues to operate just above 50% of its installed capacity. Do we increase capacity? Do we retain it? Are we to expect consumer apathy to remain, or are we going to expect a buoyancy? So I think the clarity of direction and stakeholders' engagement is very important for us to be able to determine whether good times are in the horizon or not.
All right, just help us understand as briefly as you can, please. What do you mean by this clarity? Because we've heard the president talk. We know him, residual knowledge of him at the back of our mind tells us he's a pro-market. We saw the market react to that. He's talked about the interest rates, talked about the FX. What form of communication are you referring to? Are you saying perhaps he should sit down with the manufacturers, he should send out press statements, he should have interviews? You know, let's just put it in picture. How would you like this communication to come through?
Okay, so I think generally Mr. President has said that he's going to ensure that he promotes production. So what are those measures that will be taken to promote production? I think they have to be clearly outlined. Are you going to remove those binding constraints? For instance, the CBN has just put out this price verification portal, which is constraining manufacturing imports because they give you a price range that is obviously unrealistic and not related to what the current realities of the manufacturer is. Is government going to say that this is our policy direction? And they need to put it out to say that in promoting domestic production, we are going to do A, B, C, D. Of course, engage stakeholders in determining that. That's what we are saying. Government, for instance, is saying that the naira, government has floated the naira rate. So government needs to tell us, having floated it, this is the way I'm going to pursue the adequacy of supply. And this is the way I'm going to prioritize the productive sector so that I can reflate the economy. So the government is supposed to come out to say, okay, we have removed fuel subsidy. Everybody knows that the most important remedy for this is for you to have local production. So this is what my plans are in terms of ensuring that our refinery works, and this is what I'm doing so that everybody that is involved queues behind government. I'm just talking of adequate communication, particularly to those who play in the sector and also generally to Nigerians, so that the issues about tension, about apprehensions, about suffering can become livable, so that people will have an expected end. Those are just the thing that I'm saying. I'm saying that it should be coordinated. So now that we have a coordinating minister for the economy, I believe that's going to be a lot easier, so that he puts out a general framework for the reforms, I mean, for the expectations in the renewed hope that the president has said. This is what it entails, so that every one of us can locate where we stand in that whole story.
All right, thank you so much.
I'm trying to say, yeah.
Thank you so much for painting that very clear picture right there. The Director General, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Segun Ajayi Kadri, for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for having me.